Axel Foley is going back to Cali and Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. It's time to talk about it. Let's go. What's going on, everyone? Klep Napier for CritiX.com, and it is time to officially talk about, break down, and review Axel F. Beverly Hills Cop from Netflix, ladies and gentlemen. Directed by Mark Malloy, executive produced by Jerry Bruckheimer. Listen, I have been a huge fan of this franchise. It has been a long time coming that I actually get to see and talk about this film. I was so excited once it got announced. I was even more excited when Netflix, shout out to Netflix, hooked me up and gave me the permission to actually check this thing out a couple of days early so that I could review and talk about it for all of you. Now, in order to make sure that I was unbiased and that it wasn't my excitement reviewing this film and that it was really the film pundit in me and the critic, I watched this thing more than once. I literally watched it 4 times so that I could get the giddy childhood feeling out and actually review this thing as an actual movie. Now, before I talk about what I thought about this film, let's talk a little bit about what Beverly Hills Cop is for those of you who do not know. Now, Beverly Hills Cop, Eddie Murphy's first leading role, 1984. This film came out, and to say that it shattered box office at a time would be an understatement. For a black lead, comedic lead at that, and it was the first of its kind to kind of mix the genres of action and comedy. Never been seen before outside of maybe 48 Hours before that time, but usually back then it was either action or either comedy, and Eddie Murphy was able to kind of knock that genre, straight out the hemisphere, if you will, and kind of create something new. And they spun off a sequel in '87. Then they came back and did a little lackluster threequel, if you will, in 1994. And then it even spawned an unknown pilot for a TV series in which Axel Foley had a son who worked for the Beverly Hills Police Department. Somehow they nixed that, got rid of that concept, it's out there for those of you who want to see it. It's actually on YouTube. You can watch the actual pilot, starred Brandon T. Jackson as Axel Foley's son. They got rid of that, and now we move 40 years after the original, 30 years after the last movie, and now we have Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F, coming to Netflix July 3rd. Now, what did I think about this movie? These guys, they understood, and I put this in the status when I did my first reaction. They understand that the chemistry, the magic of this movie, of this franchise, relies solely on one, Eddie Murphy, Judge Reinhold, John Ashton. Those are the main 3 characters that we know: Billy Rosewood, Taggart, and Axel Foley, and the music that we've grown to know and love within this series. When I tell you that the 80s had a certain style when it came to selling movies and marketing films, a lot of it relied on the actual soundtracks of the music that was played in the films. They understand that while making this new film. So immediately when this movie starts, you are going to feel like you are watching Beverly Hills Cop Part 1. I promise you. If you don't, then you're not a real fan, because I'll say 45 minutes of this movie is like, wow, they're really catching the essence of what Beverly Hills Cop brought to us with Axel and the whole Beverly Hills Cop vibe, the tone. It's just all there throughout the first half of this film. Gradually through this movie, it will shift the tone and kind of feel new. They bring in a couple of new songs, a song that you probably remember that's being promoted more recently by Lil Nas X. It's a new song that they put a spin on the Axel F theme song, and his song gets kind of thrown into the mix in this too. So it gives it like a more relevant today vibe. But for the most part, the tone is there, ladies and gentlemen. If you are a true Axel Foley Beverly Hills Cop fan, you will feel right at home when this movie starts. Now, let's talk about the storyline and the characters. Now, we got some new characters introduced in this film. We have Kevin Bacon, who it's already known out there. There's no plot twist, ladies and gentlemen. He is the sole villain of this story. And then we get an introduction from Taylor Page, who plays Axel Foley's daughter. Yes, that's right. They nixed the son storyline and introduced a daughter instead in this. So it's like this is part of the canon. The old storyline that's in the TV series that never was doesn't exist. Now Axel Foley has a daughter. They're introduced into the mix along with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who plays a character that pretty much sidekicks with Axel throughout this entire adventure. The storyline revolves around the daughter. Something happens. She's gotten in too deep with a client of hers. She's a lawyer. She's supposed to represent him to kind of clear his name. And the big baddies that she's trying to expose don't like that idea. They threaten the life. Judge Reinhold, Billy Rosewood, he calls Axel. Axel comes back to Beverly Hills as per usual whenever they need his help out there. Now, the good things about this film that it does is it really focuses in on what I consider the bad part of this movie. For me, although, the story is cut and dry, it's a little predictable. It's like every action 80s movie, the bad guy off rip, what's going to happen. The bad guys pretty much may win or not win right off rip. There's no surprises. They're old. They're just old, and that's the part that sucks. But they lean into it. They let us know that they are aware of who these guys are, where they are in this movie, and they don't try to pretend that they're not. You're not going to see Axel jumping off of cliffs or dodging explosions or anything like that. These guys really have honed in on the fact that this film is 40 years after the original, and a lot of things get explained, like why is Axel still a detective when he's been on the force for over 40 years, and that gets addressed. What also gets addressed is where everybody has been since all this time. Rosewood, Taggart, what they've been up to. So where that's the good and the bad. It's like, okay, they're addressing it, so we get to kind of jump into the story and follow along and understand what's going on, wherever our favorite character's been. But at the same time, it's like, damn, I wish we could have really got another Beverly Hills Cop when everybody was just in their prime and young, and the jokes were, they were hitting harder and hitting a lot better than they are, because now we're just kind of accepting where everybody is right now. So that was the gift and the curse for me as far as this film. But overall, I thoroughly enjoy this movie as a Beverly Hills Cop fan, and I think that everyone that is a true Beverly Hills Cop fan will enjoy this movie. It's way better than Part 3, in my opinion. I know there are some people out there that like Part 3, but for me, 3 just does not feel like a Beverly Hills Cop movie. It kind of feels very Hollywood, which was something I had a conversation with one of my friends. We were talking about the differences in Part 1, 2, and 3, and how 1 and 2 feels very close-knit, very connected because of the tone in which they came out. Like they came out in the 80s. So once you're out of that decade, things just kind of move around and just feel a little different within Hollywood. And 3 was a victim of that, I think. This one really feels like it's part of 1 and 2 with a mix of 3, period. A mix, like a light mix, because you can't avoid the fact that everybody in this film is old. There are a lot of nods to the original, a lot of lines that get dropped that if the real fans will catch on to, they'll understand. And also, there is a really strange cameo in this movie. And when I say strange cameo, it's the cameo of a character whose name doesn't get dropped, but when you see the person, you know exactly what character they are, and it is not from the Beverly Hills Cop universe. It is from another universe for another property that was announced is on its way to Netflix, and I will leave it at that. So look forward to that cameo. You'll know it when you see it, ladies and gentlemen. And I laughed so loud when I saw it because it was so random and just out of pocket. But hey, Netflix has they gotta buzz their properties any way they can, right? And where better to do it than in Beverly Hills Cop, where it's going to get all the eyes. So ladies and gentlemen, that's pretty much all I can say about Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. I think that it is a solid Beverly Hills Cop movie for real hardcore Axel Foley fans. Let me know how excited you are to see this film, ladies and gentlemen. Like, comment, share, make sure you subscribe. And for more movie news, television news, and pop culture, make sure you guys are checking out wearecritics.com. And I will talk to you all later. Peace.